Hello everybody and welcome to the first episode of the Flip Driver Manufacturing Series. I'd like to thank everybody for joining me. For starters, I also want to apologize for not getting these videos up sooner. I believe that I posted in one of my update videos that I had planned to post them weeks ago and they never got posted. The reasoning behind that is because I realized that I needed additional hardware and material that I didn't have on hand, and I didn't want to order those to order a small quantity, even though the project was successfully funded at the time. Thank you everybody for that, by the way. I didn't want to order a guesstimated amount, and I didn't want to order just a few pieces and get hit with shipping charges and things like that. So I decided it simply made more sense to just wait till the end and then order everything. That way everybody can see them really as they're being manufactured. You look at all of them, you can point them out and say, oh, maybe that one's mine. And actually you will be able to see which one is yours when we get around to the anodizing, because there was quite a few very awesome combinations of colors and not very many that were the exact same. So with that said, I want to thank everybody and I want to welcome everybody once again to the first episode. I think in this episode what we're going to try to cover is perhaps what you'd call the theory of flip driver manufacturing. We're going to rip one open, we're going to take a look at it, see all the bells and whistles, the parts, the components. We'll see what materials they're made out of, all the hardware and things like that. Past that, in the next video or so, we're going to start actually manufacturing them on the CNC machine. And then after that, as I said, we'll probably delve into the anodizing. We may or may not take a look at the software involved. We'll just see if there's any want for that. But until then, we're going to flip around, take a look at a flip driver, and see what's going on with it. Alright folks, so here is a, let's see, Dragon Scale flip driver. This is one of my prototypes that I made, so it's got a few dings and a few scuffs on it, but that's okay. It still works a-okay, as I hope that everybody else's flip driver works great once it has a few dings and scuffs on it. So basically we want to just kind of cover all the basics on the flip driver itself. So to start with, of course, we've got our magnet back here. This is actually a multi-purpose magnet. It was a happy coincidence that you can use it to stick it to things, because it's actually originally designed to be used to hold the your flip driver shelf in place. So we'll take a closer look. I don't think you can see it from here, but there's a magnet in there, and it actually goes all the way through, and so it clicks in place when you close your bit shelf. And I originally had this closed off, but then I realized it would be pretty nifty if you could use this to stick stuff. So moving on, of course, everybody's seen the bottle opener. It's secured with a magnet on the base or the body of the flip driver itself, and there's also an additional magnet in the bottle opener. So once again, you can use that to magnetize to whatever you want, whether it be bottles, or maybe you need to get into a small space and you can't quite fit it. You can slip that in there without too much trouble. Then of course we've got the driver itself. Has our nice little holes. These are originally designed to lighten it, so we get a little bit more aggressive flip, so we can punch through dirt, any grime and materials that might be in there. But it also works great to fold wire if you're doing electrical work, to hook into outlets, sockets, things like that. And I'm sure somebody else will figure out a few more additional uses for it. But of course, pull out your driver, put it in there, and you are golden. So let's see, moving on. So now we're going to go into taking the flip driver apart. It's done with two different sized Torx drivers. We have a T10 and a T5. Little tiny guy. Any that uses the T5 is a 0-80 screw, and the T5 is a 632, I believe. So we're going to take our screwdriver and start popping this open. So first, you might want to know this for general maintenance, but we're doing it more of as a I suppose, instructional thing. So take the bottle opener off first, and that flips off there, and it actually reveals an additional 0-80 screw that holds the whole thing into place. So now to take the front off, we're going to swap over to our T5, and we're going to pull out this guy, and we're going to pull out this guy. It's a fairly long screw, and those 80 threads per inch. It's a lot of twirls to get it in and out, but that's okay. Make sure it stays nice and secure and doesn't come apart. Now we're going to actually swap back to the T5. I suppose you can do this in any order you'd like, but I like to do this. And when you pull this apart, you're going to want to squeeze it because there are a few springs in there, so just hold it down and secure while you take this guy out. And once that comes out, you're going to want to be a little bit gentle because, like I said, there are magnets, and it would actually be a little bit wiser to press your button and flip out the driver ahead of time. Otherwise, it's going to pop open a little bit aggressive like that. So let's put our stuff back in place where it was. If we would have opened it smart, if only I knew the guy who manufactured this, he would have told me how to open it right. Of course, that's a joke. So moving on, our first item is our little button here. This is made out of 01 tool steel, or rather drill rod, I suppose. Goes by a few names, but this is a hardenable steel, and it's hardened to hold up to the abuse that it's going to have in years to come, especially down in this part here, where it takes a lot of abuse, constantly sliding on and off the main driver here. So that's a hardened piece of metal, and that's actually manually machined on my manual lathe. Everything's done by digital readout though, so they are all quite precise. Moving on, we can pull out our bit shelf, pull out our bits. Of course, those are held in by a magnet on the base. And there is also an additional magnet down here, which, as I said before, locks onto this guy, which is the one that you can see all the way through the entire body, and that is what gives you your closing action for that. So moving on, we have our spring for our button, and now we can take our main flipper out. And this is supported by two phosphorus bronze washers. These will last quite a while, and they provide you with, I suppose, slipperiness, whatever the technical term is. I'm sure knife folks will know a little bit better than I. But so here's our main flipper. This is two components. We have our main body, and this is a water jet cut piece. And we also have our hex driver, which is cut out of 304 rod. Both of these are 304 stainless steel. That way you don't have to worry about them rusting. It's also a very strong steel, so it holds up to the abuse. Also, for what it's worth, here's a blank bottle opener that was water jet cut. So move that out of the way. Here's our spring that gives us our flipping action. Another washer, if it would agree. Sticks on there because of the oil. So another washer. Each one, of course, has two to support one on either side. And these are our pivot pins. These are just pre-manufactured little hex head pivot pins. And I believe these are stainless. I'm not sure which grade though, but they will hold up as well. So basically, I mean, that's it. You've also got these two guys. These are threaded standoffs. These come pre-done. This tiny little thread would just be a nightmare to be doing on my own. Even if you had a CNC lathe, it would still be a nuisance. So I opted to buy those pre-done. And funny enough is these are actually, buying these all, let's see, how many units did I have to get? 74 units. These are actually the most expensive pieces of the flip driver. These are about $1.50 a piece. So, and that leads us to having basically all of our main aluminum parts, all of which are machined out of a solid hunk of 1/4 inch thick, or excuse me, I suppose this would be the bottom is machined out of a 1/4 inch thick plate of aluminum. The top is machined out of a 1/8 inch thick plate of aluminum, and the bit shelf, bit storage, is machined out of 1/4 inch thick plate of aluminum. So that's something that we'll be covering in the probably next episode or so is actually machining these out, putting the plate on the mill and profiling them out and cutting all the details, the spring pocket, the button pocket, of course, and our holes to press our magnets in. All the magnets are pressed in except these guys. These are epoxied in with JB Weld, which is going to provide plenty of holding, and the final versions are likely to be round magnets opposed to these square ones. I find that the round ones are easy to work with, and they also seem to be stronger than the square ones. These square ones are they're cheap, but I want to have more holding power, so I will probably end up going with the circle ones, but we shall see when we get to the actual machining part of the flip driver. So I suppose we can do a quick reassembly. So first is to put our magnet back in place. If you took your threaded standoffs out, you're going to want to put those back in. So those just slide in there. You can flip it over and put your little tiny screws back in. Flip it back over, magnet, and then from there your pivot pin goes in the bottom, and then you can install one of your washers. Probably want to add a little bit of oil to this, although it doesn't much matter if you run it dry either, but it does flip a little quicker if you put a drop or two of oil on that. And then from there we're going to want to put our bit storage back in. That clicks in place nice, so you don't have to worry about that shaking around. And then I also neglected to mention, because it was stuck on this side, you have your stop pin, which is for your main flipper. This stops it, and in combination with your push button locks it into place in this little groove here. So so you need to press the button again to close it. But from there we can put our button spring in place, and then we can put our spring or our main flipper back on. You run the spring through this little hole on here. So sometimes it's a bit of a trick to get that in place, but that one went on super easy. So I'll put these back in, and then finally we're going to put our other washer on, and then we're going to put our button on top of our spring. And what I like to do with this is push the button down and then lock it underneath the flipper. That way the button's pressed down. It makes it a little easier to assemble. So then you can come over here and put your top plate on, and you just kind of have to slide everything around until it decides to lock into position. The biggest, I suppose, hassle usually is your little stop pin back there is sometimes a nuisance to go where it wants, but you just kind of shake it all around, and then it eventually ends up where you want it to be. So from there, you're going to put in your screw, your main pivot screw, and put that in. And at that point you actually have a little bit of it's secured a little bit more, so you can shift it around more if something's not quite clicking in place, because you do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different holes that I'll have to line up. So once you get that in place, you can do a quick test, make sure it works well, tighten it up a little bit more, and then you're going to want to put your short 080 screw in this guy right here underneath your bottle opener. And you're going to want to put your long 080 screw on the opposite corner. And of course, since these are so small, they really don't require any massive amount of torque, so I'm just using the bit by itself. And they will also be Loctited when they come from me. And finally, you got your bottle opener. Just put it on, the magnet holds in place, and your final screw. This is the most important one to make sure that's Loctited, because if it doesn't have Loctite on it, if I were to just leave it like this, it's going to constantly be loosening up and retightening itself. And if you're not careful, you can actually strip it out if you're going to open it up, and the screw catches on the bottle opener. It'll try to tighten itself up to the point, and if you keep pushing it, you can strip the threads out from the body. So close it up, and oops, I apologize. Open it up, and put your drivers in. And perhaps worth noting, when you do put your drivers in, you want to make sure that there is a flat side. Let's see here. You want to make sure there's a flat side up. They won't go in if you have a corner up. Sometimes they'll work their way into position, but you just want to make sure to try to put them in and put a flat side up. That way you won't have any issues closing. That holds them in nice and secure. And then usually to figure out how much torque I want or how tight I want the main guy here, I like to open it up and then wiggle this back and forth. So right now there's not any, or rather there's not very much play, but if we loosen it up, we can see that there begins to be more and more play. So what I like to do is I just like to tighten it up pretty tight and then back it off, I don't know, a couple degrees I suppose, until it's loose enough. Also, if you prefer, you can tighten it to the point where it won't open, and then simply start loosening it until it does open, and then at that point is where you want to Loctite it to keep it secure, and that's going to give you the least amount of play when you're trying to open and close your flip driver. So that is the anatomy of an OAS flip driver. I suppose moving on, we can look at some of the hardware. So there that is. I love that dragon scale, looks very nice. Oh, and for those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, I posted a small video and perhaps a picture of the stickers that we have now. So everybody will be having one of these shipped out to you if you did the backing of $10 or more. You'll also be getting a pen that says Oasis Metalworks Kickstarter backer. Those are yet to show up. And a small engraved aluminum mini card, which will be, I don't have one on hand right now, but it'll probably be about that size. I think it's going to be green, and then it'll just have this my logo engraved onto it. So just a little bit cooler than a cardboard card, I think. So moving on, here's a big bag of springs. I ordered all my stuff, well, most of the stuff came from knifekits.com. So here's their sticker, and they've got a ton of really cool stuff on there for making knives or any sort of flipping utility. I think they even have small, let's see, last time I checked they had musket kits, flintlocks, and percussion cap gun kits. So one of these days I want to order those and make one. I think that'd be kind of fun. But also I thought this was hilarious. They send you a Band-Aid with their logo on it. So I thought that was pretty good marketing. So moving on, we got a bag of our phosphorus washers, bronze phosphorus washers. Those came from Knife Kits. Our itty bitty screws, also from Knife Kits. A little bit larger screws, Knife Kits. We have our pocket clips, also came from knifekits.com. All these come polished, and I'll tumble them to make them matte. I believe that everybody who actually got a pocket clip ordered it in the matte color. We got our main pivot pins. These did not come from Knife Kits. These came from somewhere that I can't remember. I ordered these way back in the day when I originally first started prototyping flip drivers, and they only came in bags of 100. So, and they didn't cost very much at all. So I just ordered the bag of 100, and I can't remember where I got them. So that's them. Then we have our little standoffs, 080 standoffs. These come oversized, and we chop them down in the CNC mill a little bit. Those come from McMaster, I believe. And with that, I ran out of storage and continued reapping for a few more minutes until I realized that I ran out of camera space. So the only thing we really missed is, let's see, we have a few different assorted shapes and sizes of magnets that go into the flip driver, and the spring for the button. Besides that, though, nothing that interesting. So I think that about concludes it for this episode of the flip driver manufacturing series. So I think for the next episode, we're actually going to start working on the CNC mill, putting some plates on there, machine them out. This is a template, or rather, I suppose a machining plate for the flip driver, so you can kind of see the outline of it. So we're going to kind of go over covering that. I got to make a new set, so we'll cover making the set and how everything gets lined up on the machine. So that should be pretty fun. Other than that, though, thank you everybody for backing me. Thank you everybody for watching this. I'm hoping to have those videos up by Wednesday of next week. Hopefully no later. I'm on a pretty good schedule now, so hopefully I can keep to the schedule I say. So thank you everybody once again. I shall see you sometime next week. Bye.